Well, good morning. How are you all today? And welcome to Prepping for Prosperity. I'm Steve Smith. I want to talk today about something that I think is probably one of the biggest disagreements in personal finance that there is, and that is the use of credit and the use of credit cards and things like that. But let's just put the umbrella credit over there. Before we get into that, by the way, I wanted to let you know that my seventh book, the proof copy, just came into me yesterday, and I'll be proofreading it on Wings Like Eagles. This is my seventh book, the seventh book of the Stone Knot series. I know a lot of people have been waiting for it, asking for it, and it's finally done. I'll be proofing this. They send a proof copy. They put this little thing across there that says not for resale. I don't know why they do that. But anyway, when you get done writing the book, you send it off. You say, send me a proof copy so I can check it for all my typos and anything that I want to change. So that's what I've got. I got several. I'll be going through this in the next few days. So will Kelly and somebody else. And we'll try to find all of my typos, and we'll do the best we can so that when you read it, you won't have to stumble over them. And then it should be available both through Amazon and through our website, stonemont.us. Probably in a couple of 3 weeks. Okay, so let's talk about credit, shall we? This channel was a spinoff from Integrative Preparedness, and the reason that it was is because when I started talking about financial things, there were so many people in the preparedness world that are so ingrained in doing things the old way and simply and things like that they just refuse to even consider anything outside the most basic, and that's to their detriment for the most part. I mean, there are some who are able to do it, but for the average person, not being able to deal responsibly in the world of finance and credit and things like that is either not going to let you access the opportunities that are available out there, or it's going to set you up for failure. So when we talk about, or when I talk about credit, whether credit is good or bad, first off, credit is good. It means that somebody feels that you are trustworthy enough to pay back money if they lend it to you. Okay, debt is what is the problem. Okay, and I won't say that debt is necessarily bad. Bad debt is. Okay, I'm going to talk about good debt versus bad debt here a little bit. The concept of good debt is very, very deep, and I think it's beyond the ability of most people, maybe not you, most people to even begin to understand. So I'm not going to get into that. But there is such a thing as good debt. No, this not according to the Bible. Let me say something here before we get into this, because I know that I always get some of these comments, and for those of you who are tapping already, I hope you'll listen to me first before you hit send. Yes, the Bible does say that the borrower is slave to the lender. Okay, all right. That means, of course, that when you borrow something, you have an obligation. You are obligated to that person, right? And yeah, would you prefer to be obligated or not obligated? Well, I would prefer to not be obligated, but sometimes in order to function in the world, you have to take certain steps. So let me ask those people, and for the rest of you, I think you'll enjoy watching this. For those people that say you should not be in debt, let me ask you this question. This is going to set us up for the whole rest of this video. I'll ask the question first, and then I'll take my sip and give you a chance to think about it. Okay? Did you pay cash for your house? No. Why not? Well, because Steve, who can pay cash for a house? So that's okay. I'm going to have a mortgage. And do you know what mortgage means? I'll tell you in a minute. A lot of people think they do, and they don't. Well, people used to pay cash for their houses, Did you know that? Yeah. The mortgages actually came about in the United States during the Depression in the 1930s. Up until that time, if you wanted to buy a house, you had to pay cash. Did you know that? Well, then why aren't people still doing that today? And this is for the guy that says you should never borrow money for anything. Okay, if you borrowed money for your house, you borrowed money, and it's not different. And I'm going to explain that to you. Okay. Uh, by the way, do you know what mortgage means? You'll hear people say this improperly. They say, "Well, mortgage means death, death something or other." Well, it actually does, but it's not the way they mean. It started, the mortgages were actually started, oh man, back in the 1500s or something, I think, or the 1400s. I forget. I read it some time ago. Being a writer, I'm interested in the origins of words, of language, right? So I looked this up some time ago, and it comes from two French words, mort meaning death, and gauge meaning, what does gauge mean? Oh, well. Now I've forgotten what it is. Mort is easy to remember, right? Gauge is more difficult. Agreement, I don't know, something like that. Well, some people, misunderstand that. They've heard that mortgage means something, death, whatever. It's not what it means. It means that it's over when the loan has been satisfied. Yeah, the death of the loan, the death of the debt, when it has been satisfied, when it's been paid off, or even back then when the person was no longer able to make the payments. Okay, so since we've established that even those people who rail about you should never borrow money probably borrowed money to buy their house. Now we can go down this road and talking about what is responsible use of credit and therefore responsible servicing of debt. It's kind of like, the old joke, and I won't, and I have to be careful how deeply I get into this. A man walks up to a woman and he says, "Hey, would you sleep with me for $1 million?" And she says, uh, let me think about it. And she gets to thinking about, turn it around the other way. I don't mean to be sexist here, and I don't mean to be too racy here. She thinks about it. She thinks about all of the things that, and I'm sure you all wouldn't do that. Okay, you wouldn't do this. Thinks about all the things that she should do. So let's make it $1 billion. All the things she could do with $1 million, and she finally says, "Well, okay." And he says, "Well, would you do it for $5?" And she says, "Well, what do you? Of course not. What do you think I am?" And to which he replied, "Well, we've already established what you are. Now we're just negotiating price." Okay, so for those people, and I know that didn't apply to any of you guys. So that's kind of the guy that says, "Don't I financed my house, but you should never, finance anything else." Okay, let me ask, did you finance your car? Probably most people did. Now there are those, and I'm not done with the house yet. Just a second. Why not pay cash for your house? If you can set aside $2,000 a month, which most people can't. I mean, if they're renting, first off, you realize you don't have an extra $2,000. If you're renting, you're paying probably close to $2,000 nowadays a month for any decent sized apartment. If you're going to have a family, oh wow, okay. So let's say that let's bring it back. You're a person starting out in life. You want to get married someday, have kids, something like that. And you're going to buy a house. But you're going to do it in cash. And I actually know somebody who has this idea. I've tried to convince them that they're wrong, and they will discover on their own one of these days. So you're paying on your bills. You're paying your apartment, and you're able to stock $1,000 a month away toward buying a house. Okay, that means you got $12,000 a year, right? Okay, so in 10 years, what are you going to have? $120,000. In 20 years, what are you going to have? $240,000, right? You're not even close. In 20 years, you're not even close to being able to buy any kind of decent house in today's market. Okay, so you're going to wait enough, and remember, all of those 20 years those houses, inflation has been appreciating all the real estate. So by the time you save up your money, or $240,000, which is like a nothing house in today's markets. Yeah, I know you can find little houses in small towns in the country and stuff like that for that, but you're not going to find it in any city or any suburb anywhere. And now those 20 years, because of inflation, your money, your $240,000, is probably worth 70% of what it was, if that, probably less. Okay, so we've established that it makes sense to finance a house, right? How about your car? Most people finance their vehicles. Now, some don't, and the ones that don't say, well, I would never finance a vehicle. If I can't pay cash, I'm not going to buy. Okay, and you're spending half your time fixing it or paying somebody else to fix it. Right? Yeah, that's right. I'll answer for you. Let me give you an example here, or two examples of the proper use and why it can be responsible to use even credit cards. Well, I'll give you three. First off, I do a lot of business, right? I buy a lot of things for my businesses, and I use a credit card. Why? Now, all the Dave Ramseyites out there are just pulling their hair out, right? Because Dave says don't use credit cards. Dave says this. There's a lot of things that I disagree with Ramsey on. You've heard me say this before. The thing about this with Ramsey, he just has a lot of little cult followers with him. He got into this because he got himself overextended in credit and had to take bankruptcy. Did you know that? That's right. That's right. And he makes, all sorts he gives reasons for it. You can either believe those reasons or not. And then he got into giving people financial advice. You know what? I don't take dietary advice from overweight people. And I don't take financial advice from people who are bankrupt. He started teaching financial advice through his church and other things like that. That's how he made his money. He didn't make his money following the advice that he gives. Simple as that. He put together his Financial Peace University. He sells books. He gives seminars. He has his radio shows. He calls himself, and the people who work for him, what do they call them? I mean, this is just unbelievable to me. Ramsey personalities. His daughter and some other people, they are probably on his, and here is Ramsey personality. Who does that? Who describes themselves or anybody else that works for them? The people who work for me, for instance, in my lighting, I don't call them blah, blah, blah personalities. I call them my employees or my contractors or whatever. I don't call them personalities. But anyway, he did not do. He got himself into a real bind. Worked himself out, but he didn't work himself out by the advice that he gives people on the radio or on TV. Okay, he will say he'll make the statement. He says, because when people say, "Well, I like to use my credit card for because of the points and the cash back and everything like that," he has a lot of catchy phrases that he likes to use that people who don't know any better will jump on and go, "Yeah, I love it," and then they'll repeat it and they think it makes them sound smart. And one of the things that he says is, well, I know a lot of millionaires, and I don't know any of them that made their millions by their cash back on their credit cards. Okay, that's called a straw man argument. It's an argument that's not really an argument. It's just something that sounds catchy that it seems like to the uninitiated can be easily knocked down. I know a lot of millionaires. I don't know any who don't have credit cards or use credit cards. I don't know any who don't. I spend a lot of money every year on business related stuff and personal related stuff, and I am always getting money back. I mean, I spend a lot, yeah, but you know what? I probably get thousands back a year. Big years, yeah, hundreds on other years. In the cash back that I get on my credit cards. Why would I not do that? I'm going to spend the money anyway. Okay. So you spend it on your credit card, you pay the credit card back, but then they're giving you money. Why would you not do that? You see, the problem is that it's not the credit, it's not the credit card. It's irresponsible people, irresponsible use of credit, irresponsible people, irresponsible behavior. People who should stay away from credit are people who are irresponsible. But that's not a credit problem, that's a responsibility problem. And that behavior needs to be corrected. That's what needs to be corrected, not the use of credit. Okay, let me give you another example here. Somebody you feel that the world is a dangerous place and you need a rifle. Okay, and you want a fairly good rifle. Um, oh, call it $1,000. I don't even know what they're running now. I didn't pay that for mine. I bought mine years ago. Just say it's $1,000 to make it easy, right? And you say, well, I got to save up for this rifle, and it's going to take, and you can save $100 a month. Okay. All right. Well, in 10 months, you've saved enough for the rifle. Make it 12 months because you need to pay tax. You're going to need some ammo for it. Okay, so make it a year. In a year, you've finally saved up your $1,200 to buy your rifle. Why did you feel that a rifle was important? Well, just like a house, I think it was important for the safety and security of my family. Okay. Well, then why did you wait a year to get that rifle? Well, because I needed a year to save up the money. Okay. So your family, who you felt needed a rifle to protect them, went unprotected for a year while you saved it up, right? Why didn't you use a no-interest credit card? Why didn't you apply for a credit card that would give you 12 months with no interest? Okay, and then not only after a year, you have all of that paid back, not paying a dime of interest. You see, this is where this comes in. You have to understand, not paying a dime of interest. But for that whole year, instead of being totally unprotected, they were protected. Why would you not do that? In my mind, that's irresponsible not to do that. Okay, credit card companies, they're in business to make money. Certainly, they don't expect people to pay off their balance at the end of the month, but they certainly let you. Why not? If you were gonna save $100 a month, why can't you pay it back $100 a month and they're at the end of the year still owe nothing, and your family would have had a rifle to protect them for a year. Let me throw out something else. I had to replace a transmission in my Yukon a couple of years ago, and it's pretty hefty. It's over $4,000. Okay, how many people don't have $4,000 that they can come up with? They can't run into their sock drawer and get their $4,000. Most people. I mean, studies show us that the majority of people couldn't come up with $500. I think it is either $500 or $1,000 cash right now if they needed it. Okay. Well, if you have good credit, and what that means, you don't get good credit by not using credit. And here's another thing that I just love that Ramsey says: you don't need a FICO score. What do you need a FICO score if you're going to pay everything cash? Well, because most people can't pay for everything cash. A house, a car. Okay. So if you don't have a FICO score, you are going to be paying astronomical interest rates. See, you buy a house and you have a good credit score, you're going to be paying, I don't know, I don't even know what interest rates are now. Mine's under 3%. Okay. I think, what are they, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? I don't know what they are nowadays. But you're going to be paying double or triple in interest in interest if you don't have credit. Okay. What's your interest rate going to be? It's going to be high. See, so it's actually hurting you not to have a good credit score. So say that you need to replace your transmission. Okay. Do you have $4,000? Most people don't. So here's If you don't use credit cards, you go to the transmission place and they say, well, yeah, we'll finance it. Here's your agreement, and it's going to be 20% interest, and you need to pay it back in a year. I have no idea what they would charge, but I mean, I know it's something like that. I was talking to the guy at the transmission place. He says, or some of them will work with, or they have agreements with finance companies, and you want to get screwed over big time, do that, because you are paying interest on the whole thing until you get it paid off. How about you have credit cards in your safe at home that you haven't used it for anything, but you have them there for emergencies. And so when you have to replace that transmission, when the time comes to pay, instead of filling out all this paperwork and hoping that you're approved to, for somebody else to pay that bill until you get it paid back, which if you don't have a FICO score, you're not going to get approved. Instead of that, you give them your credit card. They say, thank you very much, Mr. Whoever, and let us know if there's any problems with your transmission. And then you pay that money back over the year with no interest, instead of that big interest that you would pay if it was financed through the shop or their buddy down the street who specializes in this and also buys gold out the back door. Does this make sense? There's nothing wrong with, actually, there's nothing wrong at all with credit. Credit is important. It can be important until you get to the point where you don't need it at all, where you can pay cash for anything you want. But most people aren't there. Most people are working their way through life to that point, hopefully to that point, and we'll get to that point. So realize that the problem is not with credit. It's not even with debt. It's irresponsible use of credit that leads to crushing debt that you can't pay back. Just like Dave Ramsey did to himself. Now I'm going to warn you. I see any little Ramseyites on here blowing about something about him. I'm taking you off, because I've had that happen before. If you swallow everything that Ramsey says whole, you don't understand. You're just parroting, in many cases, bad information that misleads other people. And we're talking about real life here. We're talking about real life. We're not talking about a life of a guy that went broke because he overextended himself and was irresponsible, and then turned around and made a lot of money by teaching other people how to use money. Okay? And now, there's some things, and I won't crack on it too hard. He has a lot of good basic advice. Be responsible. Okay? But a lot of his stuff is just no. Okay, so that's the lesson. When is credit good? Credit is always good, because it means that you have established a reputation that tells other people you can be relied on to pay your debts. Simple as that. Debt, that's the problem. You need to manage your debt the best you can. Okay? You need to manage it in a manageable way so that it doesn't crush the rest of your life. And then, like I always say, you need to increase your income. And the way that you increase your income is not by working for somebody and waiting for next year's raise. You increase your income by having a company or a business or businesses, hopefully, because you should have multiple income streams of your own. Okay. All right. I hope that helped. I think that answered some questions that a lot of people have had. So have credit. Use it responsibly. It will add to the quality of your life. Used irresponsibly, it will ruin your life. All right? You all have a great day. I'll get this done, and this will be available pretty soon. If you're not, and I don't announce this much on this channel because I haven't done much on this channel for a long time. But I had people recently tell me that they liked it, so I will again. You can get my books either through Amazon, the link's down below, or you can get it through our website, stonemont.us. And if you haven't got them, I think you'd love them. Okay, there you go. Y'all have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.